All right, guys, we're ready to jump into Lightroom. Now, the first thing we're going to do is create a new catalog for Photo Editing 101. Now, people use catalogs in a lot of different ways. And when you think about a catalog, basically think about a large folder structure you can use to organize many different photos. So for instance, some people like to create new catalogs for every single project. Let's say you're a wedding photographer and you shoot this wedding, you'll create a catalog for just that wedding. You can create a catalog for every single wedding you photograph. Now you can also create a catalog that is called Weddings that has all those together. So think about it just as a large organizational tool. Now in this case, we're going to create a new catalog for Photo Editing 101 because I really don't need to see anything. I don't need to see images that I photographed 2 years ago. I'm only going to be working on this project. So that's basically how we use catalogs in Lightroom. So jumping into Lightroom, it's really easy to make a new catalog. Simply go to File and down here to New Catalog. All right, now you can place this catalog in your Pictures folder. This is where I usually place it. All right, and I'm going to call this Photo Editing 101. There we go, and hit Create. So it's going to ask us what do we want to do. Let's go ahead and skip this backup. There we go. Generally, I don't spend a whole lot of time backing up my catalogs. Usually they work just fine. Okay, so it went ahead and closed down Lightroom and then opened it back up. Here we have, you can see Photo Editing 101.lrcat. So creating a new catalog is a great way to kind of like start over. You can see I've got no folders in here, no collections. I've got literally nothing in this catalog. So we're going to start by importing our photos into this catalog. So before you import your photos, be sure to download the included photos with Photo Editing 101. Now, if you are a Phlearn Pro subscriber, you can do this right down below in the table of contents. There's a download button there. And if you purchase this tutorial a la carte, be sure to go into your My Phlearn section into your orders and you can download everything right there as well. Okay, so after you've downloaded, basically we put everything for this tutorial, all of the images for this tutorial in one folder without any organization. And the reason we did that was to kind of like simulate what you'd be actually getting from your memory card. You know, when you just have a memory card and you import it into your computer, it's just a giant mess of files. You got to organize them yourself. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So let's go ahead in Lightroom here. Now, there are a few different ways to import in Lightroom. You can click on this import button here on the left. There we go. And you can use this dialog to find your folders here on the left-hand side. So if you want to navigate to your folder that you downloaded them, you can do that here. Now I'm going to hit escape or cancel rather, because my favorite way of importing into Lightroom is just find the images in either your Finder window or your Windows menu, whatever operating system you're using. In this case, I've got my sample images here and all of my CR2s right here. So I'm going to just simply click and drag the whole folder into Lightroom. I've got a little plus icon there. There we go. And it's going to automatically bring up my import dialog, and it's going to show me my previews, and everything is going to basically just work. I don't have to find them. I just click and drag and it knows exactly what to do. So here in the import dialog, we have a few different options. Now, you're going to see that the option at the very top is to add these images into my catalog. Now, in this case, these images are already on the hard drive of my computer. So I can simply add them into Lightroom. Now, this is not going to duplicate them. It's not going to change where they are. It's going to simply allow you to reference those images within Lightroom. So if you have images existing on your computer, I think the best way to do this is to simply add them into Lightroom. Now, if you're going to be copying these images from a memory card, I highly suggest going to Copy as DNG. So a copy as DNG will basically make a copy of these images and convert them to a DNG. Now, a DNG stands for Adobe Digital Negative. It's basically a non-proprietary version of a RAW file. Okay, it's a little bit smaller file size than the versions that come out of like a Canon or a Nikon or a Sony as well. So usually that I will use DNGs when importing my images into Lightroom. So in this case, you can do either. You can hit add and it'll just simply add them as a reference, or you can hit copy as DNG. Now, if you do decide to copy them, my suggestion here is to copy these into your pictures folder on your computer or external hard drive, and then have this automatically organize by date. So you can see it's going to organize by date. Okay, you have your date format, and you can see it's going to put them in the 2017 folder, and it's going to create subfolders for each one of the days that we shot the different photos. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this because I think this is going to be the most standard method that you're going to be using, because most of the time in Lightroom, you're going to be importing directly from your memory card. So I'm going to choose copy as DNG in this case, and it's going to put them in my pictures folder, 2017, and create subfolders for me. So this is how I do it most of the time, but if you want to, you can simply hit the add icon and it won't duplicate these images. So either way, both are great ways for getting these images into Lightroom. So let's go ahead and hit the import button here. All right, and here we can see our images are coming in. Now, you're going to notice that it's putting these on my computer here, my local computer. It's put them in a folder called 2017. So let's go ahead and expand that out, and you can see it's organized everything by date. All right, so here we took 9 photos on this day, 24 photos on this day, 21 photos on this day, and 17 photos on this day. I actually took way more photos, but this just happens to be what's included in this tutorial. Now you'll also notice we've got a couple of operations in progress. Let's go ahead and click up here. It's building our previews. So one-to-one preview means you can double click on an image and you'll see at full resolution, you'll see the preview already created. So it's making those previews and it's converting all of these files to DNG. And as I said before, if they're a DNG format, it's going to take up less space than the original format, and it doesn't include what's known as an XMP side file, which keeps track of all your changes. So it's a little bit cleaner of a folder structure. So I do highly suggest using DNGs. So now that we've imported our photos, let's go ahead and go through some organization tips. And I'm going to show you the way that I organize my images in Lightroom. This is totally something that works for me. If you have another method that works for you, great, you can use that. You can use a combination of my method and your method as well. So whatever works for you. There's no one right way to do this. Again, this is all about organization, and whatever organization is going to save you time and allow you to find your files later very easily, that's the method that you should use. So jumping back into Lightroom, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at my computer here. Again, we have a 2017 folder, and now I've got a few images that are organized by date. Now, in this case, these are all from the same project, right? They're all from Photo Editing 101. And a lot of the time you're going to have images maybe over multiple days or, multiple folders that are all part of the same project. So in this case, I don't really need these images to be separated out by day, because each day I have several different photo shoots as well. So what I prefer here is I'm going to put all of these images into the same folder, and then I'm going to rename the folder, adding Photo Editing 101. So I want to keep the date because this allows me to stay very organized in Finder. Now, keep in mind, the folder structure that's here in Lightroom, whether you're on a Mac or a PC, is going to basically mirror the photo structure that's on your computer. So for instance, if I right-click on one of these folders and I go here to Show in Finder, there we go. We're going to see now in my 2017 folder here, I've got 4 dates, which mimic exactly what I've got here in Lightroom, and the images are organized by those dates as well. So anything that you do here in Finder, or anything that you do, here in Lightroom or here in Finder, they're going to mirror each other. So let's go ahead and close this out real quick. Now, first thing we're going to do is I'm going to take all the images from all the other days and then put them in this same day. And again, this is my technique here. I'm going to explain why, and you'll see why I prefer this, but you can use whatever technique is best for you. Now, I do like things organized by date because I find that's very easy to get back to a photo shoot. For instance, if I know, oh yeah, I shot that in 2017, I just go back to my 2017 folder. It won't take me long to find that shoot. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and click on this folder. I'm going to hit Control-Command-A to select all of my images, and then click and drag them to this top folder. Okay, real easy to do. So we'll do the same thing here. Control-Command-A to select all, click and drag them here to this top folder again. There we go. And then this guy, Control-Command-A, click and drag them to this top folder as well. So now we can see we have all 71 of our images in the exact same folder. So I'm going to just right click here and go to remove these other folders because there's nothing inside of them. We don't need them anymore. So we're simplified a little bit more. So now we're just using one folder that has all of our images in it. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and rename this folder. So we're going to right click here and I'm going to go to rename. Okay. I'm going to keep the date intact. That's super important for me because I like the date there. It helps find these images later. But we're going to add the name of the photo shoot. So in this case, you could do this as like, let's say you were photographing a wedding or something like that, and it maybe went like past midnight. So you'd have two different dates, right? You'd have like the day of and then the night. You can put those in the same and then rename that folder whatever the name of the bride and groom is. So in this case, we're going to keep that, and I'm going to call this Photo Editing 101. There we go, and hit save. So now if I want to go back and find my images for Photo Editing 101, it's really easy to do, right? For instance, if I just go to Show in Finder here, I go into my 2017 folder, and then that's really easy. I've got the date, and it says Photo Editing 101. So this works really well for me. And again, use whatever works best for you, but this is a format that I think is very easy to find exactly the photograph you need at any point in time. Okay, so we're doing pretty good. We've got our folder here. It's got our date on it, Photo Editing 101, and it's got all of our different DNG files in that same folder. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to organize my images just a little bit better because we have so many different photos. Now in this case, we only basically as a part of this tutorial, we're giving you, somewhere around 10 images per photo shoot. But during the actual shoot, we captured more than 100 images per photo shoot. So the next thing we're going to do is create not catalogs. We're going to create collections and put these images into collections. So when you create a collection, this is basically another way of organizing your images within Lightroom. Now, collections do not show up on the hard drive of your computer, okay? That's just your folders. So collections are just inside of Lightroom, but they're super, super helpful. Let's go ahead and show you how to create them. So here we're in our library module. On the left-hand column, you'll see our catalog, we'll see our folders, and here we can see the folder that we're using now, and here we have our collections. So I'm going to click on this plus icon. We're going to go to create a collection. And in this case, I'll just call this Elise Neon. Now you can use these collection names depending on what you're doing. I'm going to use weddings as an example because everyone's been to a wedding and a lot of people photograph weddings. So for instance, you could create a collection that was like the dinner, or a collection that was ceremony, or a collection that was candid, or a collection that was family photos. So you can go back to those collections really easily and just see all the photos that are in those collections. It just makes getting back to your photos much easier. So here we have Elise Neon. There we go. Let's hit create. And you can see here's our first collection. So I'm going to simply hold shift and click on all these images and drag them into the Elise Neon folder. Sorry, the Elise Neon collection. Now this doesn't change where they are on the hard drive. It doesn't put them in a new folder. It simply adds them into this collection. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to do that for a few of these. We're actually going to do everything. All right. Taylor palm. So here we have our images with Taylor in the palm. So let's click and drag those in there. All right, we'll create a new collection here. All right, exposure. And we're going to come back to these throughout this entire tutorial. All right, here we have our Naya Fire. Well, if I already have those selected, I can hit plus there, create a collection, and go to name it. And then I can hit include selected photos, and then it automatically pops them in, which is really cool. All right, let's go back there. Now this is our, there we go. Create a collection. We're going to call this Taylor Dome. And I came up with these names already. There we go, before this photo shoot, or before this tutorial rather. But you can call these things whatever you want. All right, there we're going to go. All right. Shandy Flowers. Just name them something that's relatively descriptive so you can know how to get back to these really easily. All right, this is Chad, and usually I'll give them the names of the people in the photos. If it's like, if you're doing photo shoots of like people or subjects, or whatever is contained in the photographs, like wedding ceremony. All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and add those. All right, Mickey. We're going to call those Mickey Portal, and we're almost done here. All right, and then there we go. We're going to add these, and we're going to call these Mickey Sunset. All right, So we just created collections for all of our images. Now let's go through and see how easy it is to access these images. So going back into Lightroom here, we're going to see if you just click on your main folder, there we go. This is going to include all of the images. Now, in this case, we have 71 images because this is a tutorial and I didn't include all the images. But we actually, when we got back from this trip, we had taken over 10,000 photographs, and that's a ton of photographs. So how do you stay organized? So that's why we use collections. So jumping back in, if we want to see the images from Elise Neon, simply click there and we see our images. Chad, Mickey, Mickey Sunset, Naya Fire, Shandy Flowers. So you can see how incredibly easy it is to find just the images that you're looking for by creating collections, which is incredibly cool. Okay, so let's go back to our folder here and we're going to see basically all of our images in one place. Okay, now there are a couple of more things that I would recommend doing to your folders before getting started, like actually culling and organizing and editing your images. So the first thing there is to create different folders within your main photoshoot folder that will help you to stay a little bit more organized. So what I'm going to do, jumping back into Lightroom here, is we've got 2017, we've got our date in Photo Editing 101. So pretty organized, right? If I look in Finder, it's the same thing. But now my subfolder just has a ton of photos in it, right? All we see is this giant pile of photos. So I want these to be a little bit more organized because, well, right now, all I have is my DNGs in there, right? But what happens if I start to edit some of these in Photoshop and I have PSDs in there? Okay, or what happens if I export some of these out for the web and then I've got JPEGs? Well, that's all just going to be kind of like mashed in the same folder. I don't really want that. I want to be a little bit more organized. So what I'm going to do is here in Lightroom, we're going to right click on our main folder and I'm going to go down to create a subfolder. So create folder inside 2017-02-27 Photo Editing 101. So let's go ahead and create a folder inside of this. Now, this is a folder structure that I use. You can use whatever names that you want, but the first thing we're going to call this folder is capture. Okay, now our capture folder, that basically is all of the images that we actually captured. So this is, think about this as like straight out of camera. Okay, so our capture folder, and you can see it's got nothing in it. Next, we're going to right click here and I'm going to create another folder and we're going to call this output. Okay, now the output folder, this is where your JPEGs go. When you're ready to export your images out and put them on the internet, that's where you put your JPEGs. Now, we're going to create one more folder in here. We're going to right click and say create folder, and I'm going to call this master. Okay, and our master, this is where our PSDs or Photoshop files go. So we have really nice organization now. So we have a folder that's just the images that we actually captured. We have images that we're going to be working on with layered files, that's our master, and we have images that we're going to be exporting out to the web or to print or to our clients, and that's in the output folder. So already we're really well organized. All we need to do is get the photos in the right place. So really easy to do here. All these photos right now, and let's just look in Finder, by the way. So when I created these subfolders here in Lightroom, you're going to see if I scroll all the way down here in Finder, they're created here in Finder as well. So all I have to do is select these images. I'm going to hit Control or Command A to select all of them and click and drag them right into my capture folder. Okay, and if you do this within Lightroom, you don't have to try to it won't lose track of any of your images. It'll know exactly where they are. So now all these images are in my capture folder, which makes sense because they're the images that I captured. So let's go back into our Finder. And you can see, wow, already we're super well organized. So we have our entire photo shoot. I can get to my capture folder and find all of my images within my capture folder. If I had PSDs, those would be in my master folder. And if I had JPEGs, those would be in my output folder. And we are going to be using these different folders throughout Photo Editing 101. So what we have now is a very, very well organized system, right? We can get everything we need. Jumping back in, we can find, okay, this is exactly, it's a very descriptive folder. I know exactly what's in this folder. I know what's going to be in each of these folders. And then here in Lightroom, we have our catalog that's named the same thing. Okay, we have everything organized by folder and everything organized by collection. So if I need to find the images we shot for Taylor Dome, simply click there, and these are all the images for the Taylor Dome shoot. So we're very well organized. And If you guys are only doing one photo shoot ever, do you really need to be this organized? Not really, but what happens when you have years and years of photo shoots? Well, going back, I'm sure if you've ever tried to find like a specific photo or a specific PSD or something you did like 4 years ago, it's like, whoa, this took me forever. It was a total nightmare to find what I'm trying to find. If you stay organized with a system like this, it's going to be incredibly easy to find exactly the image that you need at any point in time. Not only that, but if you decide to share this with another person, let's say you bring on another photographer or an assistant, using an organization strategy similar to this will allow another person to know exactly where to look when they need to find specific files or folders as well. All right, guys, so that's it for chapter 1. We went through importing all of our photos into Lightroom. We organized everything with both folder structures and using collections inside of Lightroom. So we're super well organized and we're ready to edit for the rest of our tutorial. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next chapter. Bye, everyone.